I'm Alex, and this is Technical. Exporting from Premiere can be a very time-consuming process. Many editors utilize GPUs to accelerate the process. The problem, at least in Premiere's case, is that GPU acceleration only applies in certain ways. So while using a GPU with Premiere does generally reduce render times, they could still be reduced further. For whatever reason, Adobe doesn't officially support the hardware encoders built into most modern GPUs. On Nvidia GPUs, this is referred to as the NVENC encoder. It's commonly used in the streaming and recording application OBS to encode the program's output. Thankfully, that's where the open source community comes in. The open source Valcoder plugin for Premiere Pro adds several notable encoding options like ProRes H.265 HEVC and of course H.264 NVENC. In this video, I'll show you how to use that NVENC encoder in Premiere Pro. The test footage is a near lossless gameplay recording of Battlefield 5. The game was set to ultra settings with motion blur disabled to ensure the maximum amount of detail per frame. OBS was set to the simple recording method with indistinguishable quality as the output setting. A resolution of 1440p was used in both Battlefield 5 and OBS, with OBS set to 60 FPS for recording. This combination of a highly detailed game and a high quality recording ensures a worst case scenario for a YouTube upload. The total runtime of the test footage is 10 minutes and 39 seconds. Exporting to H.264 using a typical VBR target of 24 megabits per second and maximum of 30 megabits per second at 1440p 60 FPS took 14 minutes and 37 seconds. After installing the open source Valcoder plugin for Premiere Pro, a new entry in the Format drop-down menu will appear in both Premiere Pro and Adobe Media Encoder. To enable NVENC encoding, change the video encoder to Nvidia NVENC H.264. Exact recommended settings for YouTube content will be available at the end of the video and are listed in the description. As you'd expect in testing the Valcoder plugin's NVENC H.264 encoder, it was immediately apparent the per-frame quality dropped as compared to the export that used Premiere's native H.264 encoder. This is a byproduct of GPU-accelerated video encoding and not specific to NVENC or its implementation in this case. For more on that, be sure to watch Puget Systems' analysis of GPU encoding linked in the description. To get NVENC encodings comparable in quality to the standard H.264 encoding, I found that doubling the maximum bitrate from 30 megabits per second to 60 megabits per second was basically the only option. Exporting with NVENC H.264 using a constant bitrate of 60 megabits per second at 1440p 60 FPS took 4 minutes and 58 seconds. This is a 66.02% reduction from the standard H.264 export time of 14 minutes and 37 seconds. This export time reduction is remarkable, but it comes with some significant trade-offs. Per-frame quality is noticeably worse with NVENC compared to the standard H.264 file. Again, this is an issue inherent to GPU encoding and not specific to this configuration. In scenes with little to no motion, both files are very comparable, but in scenes with motion, NVENC's inherently less accurate encoding manifests in blocky visual artifacts, especially in areas with smooth color gradients. That said, neither encoding looks perfect, and both offer much higher visual quality than YouTube's final compression. The only real downside to using NVENC encoding is file size. NVENC basically requires double the bitrate to yield comparable results to standard H.264 encoding. Your files are double the size because of this. For what NVENC encoding offers in speed, you trade quality and file size. For YouTube content, if you don't mind doubling your upload time, NVENC is an acceptable method of encoding. On screen are my recommended settings for both Premiere's standard H.264 encoder and the Valcoder plugin using NVENC H.264. You'll find a full list of the recommended settings in the description, as well as links to other resources and source files for comparison without YouTube's compression. I'm Alex, and this has been Technical. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like or a comment saying what you appreciated about it. For future content, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Thank you for watching.